Hello, my name is Brianna Redondo. Today I'll be presenting an informative presentation on military sexual assault and the SAPR policy. In today's informative presentation, we will be discussing what is military sexual assault. We'll also discuss what SAPR is and how it may help those service members who have been sexually assaulted in the military. We'll also identify the demographics behind the sexual assaults in restricted and unrestricted reports. And at the end, we're going to determine which branch has the most sexual assaults in the military in the last fiscal year 22. Military sexual assault, by definition from the Department of Defense, is intentional sexual contact characterized by use of force, threats, intimidation, or abuse of authority, or when the victim does not or cannot consent. The term includes a broad category of sexual offenses consisting of the following specific UCMJ offenses: rape, sexual assault, aggravated sexual contact, abusive sexual contact, forcible sodomy, forced oral and or anal sex, or attempts to commit these acts. With all of the sexual assaults happening on all branches, the Department of Defense came up with this training program called SAPR. What is SAPR, you may ask? It's Sexual Assault Prevention and Response Program, and it's a U.S. military training program designated to educate and help service members and provide support and treatment to families who have experienced any form of sexual assault. In the next few slides, we will be going over any type of data regarding sexual assaults reported from August 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, as well as how to report a sexual assault in the military. Under the Department of Defense's SAPR policy, there is no time limit as to when a sexual assault can be reported. The Department of Defense receives reports about incidents that occurred during the current fiscal year, incidents that occurred in previous fiscal years, and incidents that may have occurred prior to the military service member's enlistment time frame. When a service member reports a sexual assault that occurred prior to enlistment and commissioning, the Department of Defense provides care and services but will not hold the alleged offender appropriately accountable if he or she is not subject to military law. In these cases, the Department of Defense authorities often assist the victim in contacting the appropriate civilian or foreign law enforcement agency. With the SAPR program, I'm going to go over how to report a sexual assault. When you want to report a sexual assault, there are two types of reports that you can do. You can use an unrestricted report or a restricted report. When a sexual assault occurs and the service member files their unrestricted report, you cannot go back to it. You cannot take it back. You can't say, oh no, I don't want to do it anymore. The unrestricted report allows these service members to receive the mental health and the medical help that they need. It will also help them with any type of legal help they would need. And if they feel like they are not safe, then the SAPR program will help them receive expedited transfer of orders, and it'll also give them a military protection order. A restricted report will give the command notification of a sexual assault, but it won't allow them to know the identity. It's to help out the service member. It's to protect their identity. But because they're able to report it, they will receive medical help and mental health. And I think the restricted report just allows these members to know that they're not alone in times of need and they have people they can lean on. In this slide, I have a graph showing how many sexual assault cases have been reported. So in fiscal year 22, the military services received 8,942 reports of sexual assaults involving service members as either the victims or the subjects. That is a 1% increase from fiscal year 21. There are two types of reports that are made, which are restricted and unrestricted. Of the 8,942 reports received in fiscal year 22, 3,001 reports remained restricted at the end of the year, approximately a 20% increase from the number remaining restricted in fiscal year 21. Of the 8,942 reports, 5,941 reports were unrestricted, a 7% decrease from the number of unrestricted reports in fiscal year 21. So talking about restricted and unrestricted, you're probably confused and you're just like, what is that? So an unrestricted report is basically you get medical attention, but your command is also notified of who the victim is and who the assailant is. You will also get some type of military protection order, and you may also receive expedited transfer orders. And it just all depends on your preference. And then as far as a restricted report, you will just receive the services you need. Your command will be notified of what has happened, but they won't they won't know who it happened to or who was the assailant. When you make a restricted report, you can change it from restricted to unrestricted, but if you make an unrestricted report, you cannot go back. In this graph, you will see the number of sexual assaults made by service members and the reporting trends for service members who made sexual assault reports for incidents they experienced before entering the military service compared with the number of reports for incidents experienced during the military services. So if you look, the light blue, or I would say light gray, is victim reports for incidents prior to the military, which the numbers are very low. And then if you see the darker blue, you'll see that those are incidents for sexual assault cases that has happened during the military, which is a really high number. So if you look at this, I have a demographics of completed investigations regarding unrestricted reports, which means basically there was an investigation for people who actually wanted these reports to go higher than just receiving medical care. And so most victims in completed investigations are females, which is 79%, and most subjects are male, which is 80%. So with these unrestricted reports, we were able to gather some type of data, which basically says that most victims are between the ages of 16 and 24 years old, which is about 68%, and most subjects are between the ages of 20 and 34, which is roughly around 62%. Most victims in these completed investigations are in pay grades E1 to E4, which are the junior enlisted members. I myself am currently serving active duty, and seeing these numbers do not surprise me most of all. As a junior sailor, when I first joined, I was constantly sexualized in the work center. In my head, I assumed it was normal because it happened every day. I look back and wish that 19-year-old me had the courage to speak up when I should have. These numbers that are displayed are only of the unrestricted reports, which make up about more than half of the sexual assault cases that have been reported. And so if you look, you'll see that 69% of the race that is affected are whites, then it's 17% black, 1% American Indian, 6% Asian Pacific Islander, 3% multiracial, and 4% unknown. In fiscal year 2022, there were 3,682 initial restricted reports of sexual assault. Of the 3,682 reports, 681 converted to unrestricted reports, which means basically that the military can now process it as a criminal offense. At the end of fiscal year 22, 3,001 reports remain restricted. So that just means basically these members are going to get the help that they need. They're going to, take care of any medical or mental health care services that they may require to help their healing, but they're not going to pursue any type of criminal investigation. And just like we went over the demographics for unrestricted reports, we'll briefly do the same for restricted reports, but just briefly, just because I want to still, remain confident with what they reported. Now that we've gone over the demographics for these sexual assaults, we're able to see which branch that is affected the most by it. And surprisingly, it did shock me. It is the United States Army, but at the same time, am I really shocked? I feel like their numbers did increase just because of the whole Vanessa Guillen story that happened not too long ago, which was unfortunate. Vanessa Guillen was an Army soldier that was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, and she was sexually assaulted. I do believe she did report it, but I don't think it went any further than where it needed to be. I think because of her story, it did help a lot of service members speak up in that area, or just speak up all around the world in general. They probably found the courage, I would assume. And so the Army's, their numbers did spike up a little bit more than usual. I was a little shocked about the Marines being so little because I'm in the military currently, and I have served alongside Marines, and I did hear a lot of sexual assault cases that happened more than the United States Navy. So yeah, that did surprise me, and I hope this didn't surprise you. I just wanted to make sure that everyone does see these numbers. You had 3,718 for the Army, 2,052 reports for the Navy, 1,928 reports for the Air Force, and 1,244 reports of Marines. And with that being said, that is over 8,000 cases that have been reported in the last year, men and women both reporting sexual assaults. So if you look, the majority of the victims that reported a restricted report were females that were ages between 20 and 24. You do have some males who do report. but it's not as likely, which I don't like that stigma, just because I feel like men typically do get sexually assaulted in the military or sexually harassed, even by whether it's men on men or women on men. It does happen sometimes, and it's unfortunate. Just like we went over the unrestricted demographics for, race, and the rankings, we'll also go over for restricted. If you see the E1 to E4 have the most cases, as well as the white race, unfortunately. To end this presentation, I would just like to go over some thoughts that we did talk about, which were, we did go into complete definition of what the Department of Defense considers a sexual assault. We did talk a little bit about what the SAPR policy is and how it may help a service member. We also talked about the demographics of these sexual assaults. So, with that being said, I personally seen a little pattern, which was the E4 and below were constantly reporting sexual assaults in the ages from 20 to 24, and you did see females reporting more. I hope in the near future that it does change, where they feel enough courage to report sexual assaults, because, like I said, I'm in the military and I know I've seen them myself, unfortunately. And I just wanted this presentation to bring awareness that military sexual assault does happen more often than we realize, and it really is a thing still. But we do have a program to help us. So thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to present this informative presentation. I hope you have a good day.